This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing straight out of Brooklyn, New York, running the Padel magazine, Dario Miceli. Welcome to your first Halo Talks, my friend.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Always happy to be talking about paddle and, advocating for the sport, letting people know kind of what we're doing and kind of where the sport is going. There's a lot of people around the world, but, in the United States that are working hard to grow the sport, and everyone's doing a great job so far.
Yeah, so as I mentioned right before we got on here, I think the health club industry, which is, some of our core listener base have embraced pickleball as like their first wave into racket sports. Obviously, guys have taken tennis courts and repurposed them into pickleball. We're starting to get, some of the tea leaves are forming related to paddle courts. But first off, tell me why one of the guys that was educating me said that he's playing Padel, and he should be telling me that he's playing paddle.
Yeah.
Where did that issue arise, and how did we resolve that quickly?
So I don't know how we're going to resolve it quickly, but it came from, there's already a few other sports that people kind of refer to as paddle. There's the kind of platform tennis that sometimes people call paddle. There is the other type of paddle that people play on Venice Beach. It comes in a similar sized court, but it's not raised like platform tennis, but they call that paddle. And paddle obviously comes from Mexico. It's really big in Spain and Argentina. And I think when Americans hear that, they want to kind of put a little Spanish sounding accent on it. So they say Padel. But if you ask any Spanish person or any English speaking person, they'll tell you that the correct pronunciation is paddle.
Gotcha. Okay, so we will use that. I will not make that mistake for the rest of the podcast. Thank you.
Right.
So tell us, how you got involved in this initially, and what did you start playing and then said, hey, I've got to be like the media and the magazine outlet, and also kind of going old school with the magazine, kind of touch on that for us as well?
I don't come from a racket sports background. I think like every American kid, I played a lot of baseball, football, basketball, but I found out about paddle because the very first paddle courts, the first facility, which is called Paddle House, was in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Okay.
And it's in an old nightclub that I used to go in when I was in my 20s.
Which one was that, by the way?
It was Villain. It was
I didn't hit that one.
It was on Kenton. It was short-lived. I think it was only around for a few years.
Gotcha.
But I was really surprised, and my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, lived down there and used to walk by all the time. And I was like, what are they doing in there? What is this? They had a really cool sign out front. I had no idea. And I went in and I signed up for a private lesson and I played, and I just right away, it was accessible and it was fun. And I knew I wasn't very good at it, but I was still having fun. I was able to hit the ball. I was able to kind of play with the people I was playing with and get the ball back and forth. And it was so addictive right away. They say the sport is very sticky, and it is. You play it once, and even if you're not very good at it, whether you come from no racket sports background or you're a D1 tennis player, either way, as soon as you're on the court and you're hitting the ball back and forth, it's a really addictive sport. So, private lessons turned into clinics, turned into playing on my own, turned into making a bunch of friends. And I was meeting all these people, and everybody had an interesting story to tell. The sport was growing in all these interesting directions, and nobody was really telling those stories. And I figured, well, if no one's going to do it, I might as well, do it myself.
And what were you doing before? Or what was your day job before?
I'm a real estate investor. I still am. That's my day job. Okay. So I kind of had this crazy idea of starting a print magazine, and I found printers and I found writers, and we were digital for the first 7 months. And then we put together our first print magazine, which came out in March. You can see it here. So we've got about 120 pages, 14 articles in there, telling stories everywhere from Tokyo to London, Alicante, Spain, New York, all over the world. Mm-hmm. Just talking about the people building the sport and what they're doing.
So in some of the things I read, you talk about maybe one of your first articles was like America's New Wild West. And I've been a part of a lot of industries as a very early stage investor, to working with groups that are in like the longevity space as an example. That is definitely the Wild West right now. So give us a little background on why you use that term and why you view it as such, and what are the pros and cons of that.
I mean, I think it's a great analogy. There doesn't seem to be a blueprint. There doesn't seem to be any type of hierarchy. No one's in charge. There's
Right.
no sheriff. There's no rules. There's no laws. And people are doing whatever they want to do. And
Uh,
that is, so far, it's been a really good thing. People have been innovative. People have been working together, collaborating. Um, People like me, I just started a magazine and the reception has been incredible. People are supportive and really excited about it. And so far, everybody's been treating each other in the sport with a lot of respect. So, in that ways, it's a little different than a Wild West. But in terms of if you're a new entrant into this market, and especially in the United States, the UK, Canada, you can do whatever you want. You have got such a great opportunity to get into a sport on the very, very ground level in one of the biggest, most active markets in the world. That's the United States. And so I think that's why I call it the
yeah.
Wild West.
When you take a look, I play a little bit of pickleball, not that avid of a player, but I do see, like there's a pickleball channel, there's a pickleball central, there's actually an investor, the guy who owns the Carolina Hurricanes, and also the now owns the Portland Trailblazers, Dundon Capital Partners. Basically, like rolled up a lot of the pickleball industry, from like the rating system to the tournaments to the some of the bigger events. Has any of that has there been any like institutional capital that's kind of hit this space yet?
Not quite yet. I think we don't have the scale. Pickleball has the great advantage of being extremely, extremely accessible. You can put a court up pretty much anywhere, paint some lines, put up a net, and you're good to go. You can play it for free in a parking lot if you want to.
Yeah,
It's super easy to play. A paddle court can cost you anywhere from $30,000 to $70,000. You got to get signed off by an engineer. The municipality needs to know about it. You'll need building permits. And that has kind of stopped this mass adoption of the sport. The footprint is a little bit bigger. Importing courts was difficult when tariffs were really high. Not everybody knows how to build them properly. There's installers around the courts, around the world. So there's a lot of barriers to entry. So we haven't reached that type of scale that pickleball was able to achieve pretty easily. So the institutional money has stayed away for now, but we see it more and more. There's more growth. At first it was just wealthy individuals. It was Americans who traveled abroad, found the sport, fell in love with it, brought it back, and they thought, you know what, I'm going to put my personal $1 million into this. But we're
gotcha.
seeing more and more venture capital funds who are saying all we do is invest in new facilities opening. All we invest in is the technology, the apps, the AI cameras, the coaching. We're seeing more of it. It's not quite to that pickleball level yet, but we'll get there in the next 18 months, 24 months. I would say so.
The one thing about pickleball that surprised me is the amount of pickleball that's on television, which I think is probably the only reason why I want to watch a pickleball game is because I'm waiting to get onto the court for the next game. That's typically the only reason why I would watch pickleball. With paddle, do you view it as more akin to like a tennis game and maybe more exciting to a viewer?
I would say out of all the racket sports, it's got to be one of the most exciting.
Yeah.
There was studies done, and they took top level tennis players and top level paddle players. A rally in paddle is almost twice as long. So your average rally in tennis is going to be less than 5 seconds. Paddle rallies last almost 10. And so I think it looks great on television. You got 4 people in these small courts. The ball whips around. You can see the ball really clearly. There's room for sponsors on the screen. You can get it from different angles. The replays look amazing. I think in terms of racket sports, the production quality, even in the early stages that we're in, look incredible. I find it extremely fast paced and really, really exciting to watch.
Yeah.
And the matches can last 45 minutes or 2 hours. We recently had a women's match last over 4, I believe, which is a record.
Wow.
But it runs the full spectrum, and I think there's a big industry and a big future, specifically as for paddle as a spectator sport.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever actually see the sport back in the day called high lie? It was like a gambling thing. It's
Yeah.
I almost kind of like think of paddle as like high lie meets like a really good like tennis match in like a UFC octagon, almost
Yeah.
like is
No,
like
no,
the
it's
way to
in a
describe it.
right. It feels like it's in a UFC octagon because you're in those tight quarters. You've got the walls all around you.
Yeah,
It feels like tennis because of that angle that it's shot at, where you have where you're behind the court. But I think it's got great advantages. It's a really dynamic game. In tennis, you got to keep the ball in front of you. In paddle, the ball can come from pretty much any angle.
yeah.
You can run out of the court and hit the ball back in. It's such a dynamic game, and I think it lends itself again to being like a really really great spectator sport.
And then if you were to say, let me show you what's happening with paddle in this country as like the benchmark or like the bellwether, what
Mhm.
country is that?
The two most popular countries for paddle is going to be Argentina or Spain.
Okay.
Argentina has really, really deep roots, really deep history, even though it is a Mexican sport. Argentina has been really, really into paddle since the late 80s, early 90s. Spain is where the greatest academies are. It's where some of the best players come from. They have an amazing, not just professional culture, but also amateur culture. So you have housing developments that instead of having a pool in the middle, they have paddle courts with grills
Wow.
around them. People want to raise their kids around this sport. I was just in Spain for a week training, and we were leaving our training facility around 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock every day, and it was filled with parents and kids.
Wow.
It really reminded me of my little league games. The parents were sitting around. Some of them were drinking spritzes, drinking coffees. Little ones running around. The 8 to 10 year olds on court. All the parents seemed to know each other. I was really getting flashbacks to my little league game. So Spain, Argentina, Italy, those are going to be the most mature markets. Yeah, so if I were to point anywhere, I'd definitely be there.
And then from a standpoint of, I usually see people either say, "Oh, I still play tennis, I play paddle, or I play pickleball." You typically don't see people saying like, "Oh yeah, I do all three of those." What do you think it is about these sports that are so? Once you become an evangelist, like you kind of like stay in your lane.
Yeah, I don't think that is a good idea. I think people should play all of them.
Right.
And it's funny in Los Angeles, which is a really new paddle market, but a very developed pickleball and tennis market.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends there who do play all three.
Oh,
When it rains in Los Angeles, which it rarely does, but when it does, you can't play paddle. A lot of it's outside, so they go inside and play pickleball. They love
interesting.
playing all three, and I think it's such an active place, and racket sports has such great culture there. They have no problem kind of going in between. Unfortunately, in New York City, we see a lot of people kind of siloing themselves, which is, I think, unfortunate because um, there's plenty of room to do all of them. I think it'll make for a lot of diverse playing styles as well when people start mixing.
So, our day job, like your real estate day job, is we help people buy and sell companies, do mergers and acquisitions, and then do private placements or growth equity into concepts that should scale. One of the things we looked at probably about 5, 6 years ago were a number of these pickleball centers, and the unit economics just didn't pencil out. So I told a lot of people like, dude, this like nobody's really like figured out the model of how to make this work. Some guys were trying to charge like as if it was like a country club, and then realized that hold on a second, like as you said, like there's municipal courts that people could play on. They're not going to pay thousands of dollars to like be part of this club, and basically then pay court time. Some of the groups said, okay, I'm going to put in like a F&B. It was like chicken and pickle. I think that may be moderately successful, but then a lot of the franchisors that are out there that have something called item 19 where they have to list out if they want to they can list out in item 19 of their 200-page document, here's the unit economics of our franchisees, and a lot of them don't publish it because it doesn't look good. So I kind of know that it sucks as a concept. I'm not sure why they're still selling it. Have you seen very successful paddle only centers, or what do you call them as like what's the
I call them either
term?
clubs or facilities. There's no model right now that has
Okay, that
proven
was my
to
question.
win. There's
Yeah.
nobody. Everyone's doing things different. There's a franchise first model called Conquer Paddle coming out of Arizona. They're trying to franchise. There's a facility that I play at. I have a close relationship with them, Paddle House. They are a premium kind of luxe product, premium pricing, but also premium facilities, great locker rooms, stuff like that. There's courts that are there's a friend of mine who puts courts in kind of empty, unused urban spaces, no amenities, not even showers. Nobody has proven to be a terrible idea. Nobody has proven to be a great idea. We're still really early, and
Yep.
the economy is great. People are super interested in it. People still have money to spend. So the tide hasn't come out to kind of show who's really standing on solid ground. Time will tell, but I have private equity funds coming to me asking me, what works, what doesn't work, asking me about the American market, and I tell them what I just told you.
Yep.
Nobody knows, and that's can be frustrating when you're looking for something, certain. But it's
Sure.
actually a great opportunity if you're a creative person. I will
Yeah.
say a few things that stand out that are important. Like you said, F&B, very important. You get lots of ancillary income from that. People sticking around, people willing to pay for a membership. It becomes a social center. Multi-racket sports, a multi-sport facilities. So a little bit of pickleball, a little bit of paddle. If you've got space, a tennis court, ping pong, foosball, kind of hangout areas, stuff like that. And then the third thing is going to be wellness. So if you've got a cold plunge, if you've got a sauna, people really like to see stuff like that. But to answer your question, there's no model. Everyone is out here. It's the Wild West, and everyone's kind of trying their best.
Gotcha. And how deep is the instructional component to this? Are there thousands of paddle instructors that are, doing things in communities, or is it kind of centered around where there are facilities and people are like, you know, saying they're an expert, but maybe just, have been playing for a couple of years? And how's that evolved?
Other than the high cost of real estate, the biggest barrier right now to growing paddle is the lack of coaches.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
have
Oh, so that
we
was a good question then.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question because we don't have homegrown players yet. If you want a
Right.
tennis coach, America has a bunch of them. If you
Yeah.
want a baseball coach, America's got tons of them.
Yeah.
Who's an American that grew up down the block from you that's been playing paddle for 20 years?
Yeah.
There isn't any. So we've got to import our coaches. You're importing coaches. You got to provide them with housing, visa issues. It becomes really, really difficult and complex really quickly. There's people out there running programs trying to convert D1 tennis players into paddle coaches. I think it's a good short-term solution. But if you want America to be leading and get an American player in the top 50 in the next 10 years, that's not going to work. We need professional, homegrown, lifelong paddle first paddle people growing our youth, and we've got to start that sooner rather than later.
Is there a paddle rating system similar to like a tennis tennis? What do they call that? What do they call it? Tennis ratings? Yeah, I guess your rating. Yeah, what's your
Yeah,
rating? Right?
the
Yeah,
rating system
yeah,
is really complicated. Some of it is done through apps that you book. So Playtomic has theirs, Play by Point has theirs. There's the World Paddle rating. There's Red Paddle. Different tournaments use different rating systems. They don't
got it.
always
Okay,
convert. It doesn't always make sense. If you go to a really mature market like Miami, I'm basically a beginner. If you go to New York, I would be like an intermediate player. If you go to DC, I'm a more advanced player.
got
So
it.
if my 3.5 rating doesn't really mean too much
So
if
are
it's
you
just different
moving?
everywhere.
Are you moving to DC anytime
I'm
soon?
going to
You
start
want to
my
make that
career
announcement right now? I'm just kidding.
starting my career in Cleveland.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You're the resident expert.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So you have a day job. You got obviously a big passion, and you want to see this industry proliferate. And being an entrepreneur, I've got some entrepreneurs that say, hey, I want to be the largest, indoor cycling studio operator in New York City, as an
Mhm.
example. Like, what other aspirations you have? Like, I don't have any more. Like, that's good for me. What does success look like for someone that starts up what you're starting? Or do you say, like, I'm not really trying to, I don't really have like a benchmark. I'm not really trying to measure this. I'm just trying to like
Mhm.
enjoy it.
I would say success for me is getting as many people to love the sport as much as I do as possible, and really creating that ecosystem for people to go out and start their own thing. So if I can get a few thousand people to learn about paddle this year, and one of them starts a racket company, one of them starts an AI coaching company, one of them starts a consultancy, and one of them starts, opens up a facility, that to me is success beyond what I could have possibly hoped for.
That's
And
awesome.
we see it with our digital platforms. We see people on our Instagram followers and in our LinkedIn, learning about the sport and getting involved. They come to me and they say, like, I'm starting this. What do you think? I always set time aside to try and talk to them the way I'm talking to you now and give them real, actionable insights into what they can do. Um, the more paddle players there are, the more people there are to read my magazine, and the
Yeah.
more people out there playing. And it's a great
So it's really
sport.
it's a long game. It's not really like you're not trying to hit any
It's
KPIs necessarily.
it's too early. What I do
Yeah.
is to kind of, it's not very concrete. I don't have
Right.
sales metrics or anything like that. I want to build an ecosystem that kind of gets brands, players, investors, readers, kids and adults, everybody just kind of into the sport. And the more I can do that, the better off we'll all be.
Well, as you see, I call myself Captain Halo, so I want to be known to like help people use that acronym and get people to say I'm part of the Halo sector. Sounds like you want to be the godfather of the U.S. Paddle industry, which I think is a very noble cause.
I'd probably be, fifth or sixth in line or 10th in line for that title. There's so many other people doing so many great things. So,
Well, that sounds very humble of you and modest, but it sounds like an awesome thing that you're doing. And yeah, we'll put up here in the show notes everything about the magazine and what you're doing, and connect any investors that come to us related to this to you directly. And just in closing here, you got any quotes that you live by, or any like anything that's like a post-it note on what you're doing, or when you say, hey, what am I doing this as a second job for, like what kind of like rings you back, or
I've been an entrepreneur since I was in high school.
yeah.
I've done a million different things. And I think the one thing that guides me is that if you treat people well and you treat people with respect and dignity, you won't have any regrets. Your business is going to succeed and fail with things beyond your control. And there's
Yeah.
nothing you can really do there. You can control how you treat people, how people feel when they speak to you, when they work with you. That's basically as far as your control goes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And if you do that right, your business can go, all that stuff will come and go. But how you treat people, you'll be remembered forever that way. And so if you do it right, you won't have any regrets.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely on the same page with that. We call our firm Integrity Square. We live by
Right.
integrity. So we're definitely in sync on that. Hey, we wrote a book called Time to Win Again, which is how to run your business like a sports team. So Dave, let's make sure we get a book out to Dario. And
I'll get you guys a
congrats.
copy of the magazine. Just send me your
Yeah,
addresses.
please do.
I'll drop
Awesome.
them off.
All right, perfect.
Cool.
All right, man. We'll meet up sometime in Brooklyn, and thanks for
Anytime.
what you're doing, and keep the Halo sector outdoors and playing paddle.
We'll try. Paddle, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Pete,
man,
Dave.
good stuff.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks, your captain speaking. I am the founder and managing partner at Integrity Square. We've been around now for 15 and 1/2 years. We have been helping people like yourselves get capital, do mergers and acquisitions, consulting, strategic advice in the health, active lifestyle, and outdoor Halo sector, trying to help as many entrepreneurs as possible get to the next level and take that inflection point and be the force behind your growth. We are helping companies that have at least $3 million of EBITDA, around $10 million of revenue, and we are positioned to help you get institutional growth capital or to negotiate deals with strategic partners. If you go to integritysq.com/ISQ, you can see our capabilities deck. Happy to set up a consultation at any time. That is free of charge, and we look forward to you helping solve obesity, loneliness, and diabetes. Go Halo.